Taylor discovered she had a sister on her father's side at the age of 25. The revelation took her by surprise, and when she approached her mother for answers, all she received was a dismissive shrug. "I don't know anything," her mother admitted, but the bitterness in her eyes hinted at a deeper story, a vast, uncharted universe of unresolved hurt. "Mom, it's like Dad cheated on you," Taylor suggested cautiously. Her mother shook her head and pressed her lips together, her hands trembling slightly. "I never told you, but we broke up when you were little. For 5 years. I suppose that's when he had another child." Her voice trailed off, and she fixed her gaze on a distant point, lost in thought. "Why did you break up?" Taylor asked, intrigued. "Well, there were reasons," her mother replied, rising from her chair. "I don't want to discuss it." Diana's entrance into their lives had been unexpected. One evening, she had called through the intercom, delivering the shocking news that her mother had passed away, leaving her without an inheritance or a place to go. She had come to find their father. He had hesitated, probing her with questions, but she answered every one with unwavering confidence. She even presented her birth certificate, which revealed a blank space in the father section. "You disappeared from my mom's life," Diana said, a hint of sadness in her voice. "That's why she never specified who my father was, but she talked about you my entire life." "How did you know where to find me?" Taylor's father asked. Diana shrugged nonchalantly. "It was easy. I heard about your company on the news, looked up the address, and followed you from your office." "Diana, you're practically Sherlock Holmes," he laughed nervously. "Where else was I supposed to go?" she pressed, locking eyes with him. "My mother didn't even leave behind a toilet as an inheritance. We spent our lives in rented rooms with nothing to call our own. She only had a high school education, and after I was born, I had to fend for myself. My mom worked any job she could find. I took on cleaning gigs or anything that paid. She got me through high school." Taylor's father remained silent, absorbing the weight of her words. "When she died, I stayed in our rented apartment for an additional 6 months until the lease ran out. I had just started university and couldn't balance work and studies. So I thought I'd come to you for help. You're not a stranger to me. I don't need much, just assistance with housing. I'll take care of everything else." "Of course I'll help you," her father replied nervously. It was impossible to doubt Diana's authenticity. The resemblance was undeniable. They shared the same striking blue eyes, full lips, slightly elongated faces, and gracefully curved black lashes. Even their mannerisms mirrored each other. The following day, her father arranged for Diana to have an apartment in a nearby neighborhood. Yet discussing the matter with his wife was an endeavor he avoided. He sidestepped it with silence, jokes, or by simply leaving the room. "He must feel ashamed," Taylor suggested. "After all, it's a big deal." "I'd forgive him," her mother whispered. "If only he would just explain. But he won't." "Give him some time," Taylor advised. "Finding out he has another daughter must be hard for him." Despite her feelings of trepidation, Taylor felt a flicker of joy at the thought of having the sister she had always wished for. She didn't dare to voice it, though. Instead, she resolved to get to know Diana, to forge a bond, and to make up for all the lost years between them. Diana wasn't keen on forming any sort of connection. She regarded Taylor with a cold indifference, tinged with an undercurrent of bitterness. When Taylor suggested they talk or go out together, Diana's response was blunt. "All this time your father only looked out for you. I was on the sidelines. He didn't even think about me. Do you really think I want to be friends with you?" "What do you mean, he didn't care?" Taylor replied, taken aback. "Did he even know you existed?" Diana smirked wryly. "Of course he did. But what, did you think my mother just stayed silent all these years? She tried many times to get at least some alimony from him, but it was all in vain. She couldn't prove I was his daughter. While we lived in squalor, you were his favorite, getting everything you wanted. But that wasn't my fault, Taylor protested. True, it wasn't, Diana retorted, her tone icy. But that doesn't change the fact that I don't like you. So don't expect me to be friends. Taylor scoffed, her expression one of disdain. That's hurtful. I'm trying to be civil to you, and you're just mocking me. Good, then we're settled, Diana shot back, unfazed. Feeling as if she had been doused in mud, Taylor decided not to continue the conversation. However, she had to face her sister daily. Deanna's father had arranged for her to work as a part-time secretary in his office, and Taylor had been there for a year. You're in school, Taylor remarked. Don't you have enough time? My father made it easy for me, Diana said, lips pursed. I'll come to work after school. I have to make a living, and I'm not going to ask your father for money. My dad. Taylor shot back, angered. You better watch your words. Diana met her glare unflinchingly. I'll call him whatever I want. I'm never calling him Daddy. Taylor clenched her fists at her sides, giving Diana a scornful look. If you hate our family so much, why accept our help? But haven't you forgotten, dearie, that you owe me a little? Diana replied sarcastically, her words striking the nerve in Taylor. Personally, I don't owe you anything, Taylor growled. I didn't even know you existed until now. And now you'll have to not just know about me, but deal with my presence. Taylor shook her head in disappointment. This wasn't how family reunions played out in the movies. In reality, it felt more like the plot of a cheap soap opera. Taylor learned from her father that Diana's mother had been spiraling into alcoholism in her final years, neglecting her teenage daughter. In fact, her struggles may have ultimately led to her demise. It must have been tough for her, he sighed. Dad, why didn't you ever talk about it? That you had another woman? Did you even know she gave birth? He paused, as if searching his mind for an answer. No, I didn't. She said she wasn't going to have the baby. I'm shocked. He pulled out a handkerchief from his pocket, dabbing the perspiration from his forehead before crumpling it tightly in his palm. Looking my wife in the eye now is beyond me. Taylor was at a loss for words and fell silent, wishing for someone to offer comfort, some advice on how to navigate the situation. Over time, Taylor adjusted to having Diana in her life, despite their lack of real communication. However, Diana's demeanor shifted, her hostility faded, replaced by a calmer attitude, leading Taylor to hope that, in time, her sister's heart would soften and the resentment would dissipate. She still held on to the hope that they could forge a meaningful bond. Meanwhile, their mother seemed to return to her usual self, even stating that she held no grudge against her husband. He didn't really cheat, she mused, though her tone lacked conviction. We were divorced at that time. As months passed, the situation gradually improved. Diana even began to join them for family dinners, displaying greater politeness and refraining from blaming their father for all of her troubles. It felt as though their relationships were starting to warm. Even Svetlana became more affable, believing that since nothing could be done, acceptance was the only logical approach. Yes, my husband has another daughter, she said with a resigned sigh. It's a fact we can't change. If I just sit and lament, she reasoned, nothing will change. I'll only hurt myself, creating disharmony in our family. Taylor sensed a new era dawning in their family with Diana's presence, and she felt an unexpected wave of happiness at the prospect. They even ventured out shopping together a few times, and to her delight, they engaged in laughter and playful banter, discussing life as if they were best friends. During this time, Taylor met a young man named Matt at the gym. They both felt an instant connection, a spark that ignited from their very first encounter. Matt worked as a graphic designer for a prominent company and had aspirations of starting his own business in the same field. His father, the owner of the company, had promised to support him in his venture. "It's not easy to say, I'll do it all on my own," Matt admitted. "But my dad will help with the initial startup. The rest, I'll handle myself." "You're going to succeed," Taylor encouraged him, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I can just feel it. You're destined to be a successful businessman." "Thank you," he replied, flashing a charming smile that made Taylor's heart flutter. Their relationship blossomed rapidly, to the point where Taylor realized one day that everyone around them seemed to expect marriage. The thought embarrassed her, but Matt merely laughed it off. "So is being my wife not on your agenda?" he teased. "Of course it is. But don't you think it's a little soon for that?" "I suppose," Taylor agreed, though the idea lingered in her mind. Marriage wasn't at the top of her priority list, but she genuinely enjoyed his company. Meeting someone who fit seamlessly into her life felt like a rare treasure, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't want to let go of someone like that. However, she remained uncertain about Matt's thoughts on the matter. She didn't dare ask him. Their relationship remained unchanged except for one significant decision. They decided to move in together. They rented an apartment, merged their belongings, and began their lives as roommates. At first, Taylor didn't notice anything amiss. Long hours at work began to stretch into even longer gaps, which Matt assured her was due to his fervent focus on launching his project. He started visiting the dentist frequently, despite only needing treatment for a single tooth, or so he claimed. Then came an unexpected class reunion, from which Matt vanished until dawn. Gradually, other urgent matters seemed to crop up, leading to more lonely evenings for Taylor. She grew increasingly concerned when Matt became irritable at her attempts to engage him. "Why are you upset?" she questioned one evening, frustration evident in her voice. "I just want your attention. I want to spend more time with you." "Taylor, you know how hard I'm working on this launch. It's going to take weeks. Just bear with me, okay? I promise I'll give you all my time when it's done." Heartbroken but hopeful, Taylor acquiesced. But as weeks turned into months, the promised time together never materialized. Despite her best efforts to dismiss the unsettling signs of another woman, Taylor clung to the notion that they weren't married yet. If Matt had someone else, she thought, he would surely confide in her since they shared little in terms of commitment. But as reality would soon reveal, her assumptions were far from the truth. A friend of Taylor's broke the shocking news that Matt was seeing someone else. "I saw him today," her friend said, disbelief etched on her face. "He was sitting in the cafeteria, flirting with some girl, kissing her hand." "You must be mistaken," Taylor asserted, confidence dripping from her words. But inside, her heart raced, her vision darkened, and her ears felt muffled, as if she were submerged in water. She gripped the back of her chair, fearing she might faint. "No, I'm not mistaken," her friend insisted, frustration evident in her voice. "I was at the next table. I could see him clearly. He was there, making out with that girl." The rest of the day passed in a blur, Taylor dabbing at the tears that stung her eyes. She wrestled with her thoughts, weighing whether to confront Matt directly or to investigate her friend's claim first. Eventually, jealousy gnawed at her insides like a relentless fire, and resentment pricked at her throat. Could it really be true? She hoped her friend was either misinformed or mistaken. After all, discovering the betrayal of the man she loved would be far harder to bear. That same night, while Matt slept peacefully, Taylor made her move. She quietly took his phone and slipped into the kitchen, careful not to wake him. Without turning on the light, she unlocked the device. She had caught a glimpse of the password earlier and began sifting through his messages. Amidst the sea of mundane business conversations, one thread stood out, a love note, but it was perplexingly with a contact labeled Roman translator from Chinese. The messages were nothing short of shocking. The translator had sent Matt a multitude of revealing mirror selfies, each time with their face covered by a phone. Matt's affectionate nicknames for the translator, Bunny and My Mouse, made her stomach churn. He promised to meet soon and mentioned dumping his chicken without fail. Taylor felt her heart shatter as she scrolled through the exchanges, trying to comprehend how he could let such things go uncensored. Did he not know about self-deleting chats? Suddenly, she stumbled upon a snapshot revealing the face of the mouse translator. Taylor froze, her breath hitching in her throat. Staring back at her from the screen was none other than Diana. "Believe me, honey, she's not getting anything from her father's inheritance," Diana had written. "There's no point in you getting involved with her. She'll remain a pauper like I once was. This family fully believes I have no claim to anything. I've managed to convince them of that." "And how will you make sure she gets nothing?" Matt asked. "I have one really good, workable plan," Diana replied, accompanied by a sleigh-winking emoji. Taylor's heart raced as she quickly snapped a picture of the conversation on her own phone, her mind whirling as she processed the implications. She closed her eyes for a moment, the reality crashing down on her. So this was what was truly happening. Diana had managed to gain their trust and had wormed her way into the heart of their family. Not just as an outsider, but as a true member, enough that her father had even mentioned leaving half of his inheritance, including real estate and the company, to Diana. And Taylor had thought there would be enough for everyone. The weight of betrayal hung heavily in the air.
But Diana, it turns out, has made a decision to seize everything for herself. What a hypocrite. She claims to be over her anger to your face, all the while plotting behind your back, and what a scheme it is. Taylor wanted to confront her sister and show her a lesson, but lacking a clever plan, she opted for honesty and confided in her father. He listened in silence, furrowing his brow and frowning, asking her several times if she might be mistaken. Taylor's voice trembled as tears streamed down her cheeks. "What more proof do you need? He probably only got involved with me because you have a business." "Well, they do have one. Or do they?" her father replied, seemingly confused. Taylor wiped her tears, taking a deep breath. "From what I gather, it's declining, and Matt was looking for a way to salvage it. Then I showed up, and now Diana's swooping in. She's punishing us both while simultaneously trying to snag herself a fiancé. It's an elaborate scheme to push me aside, as if I've always had everything handed to me. They deserve each other, two peas in a pod." Her voice broke as she cried again. "Dad, you have to kick her out. She'll just keep plotting behind our backs." "I'll handle this," her father assured her. "Don't worry." And he did. Diana was assigned a nice 3-bedroom apartment in a desirable neighborhood, a sum of money, and a crossover SUV. "I can't leave her with nothing," he explained. "We agreed there would be no children involved, but she's still my daughter. Let her take what she can and move on." Logically, Taylor knew she should be okay with some arrangement for Diana, but her resentment bubbled over. Diana wanted to strip her of everything and turn her into what she referred to as a beggar, then expect sympathy. "How dare you?" She growled into the phone. "What have I ever done to you?" "You were born," Diana scoffed. "If not for you and your mother, my father wouldn't have left us, and I wouldn't have spent my childhood stitching up old clothes and eating scraps. This is all your fault. I'll never forgive you." "Take your mat and get out of my life," Taylor shouted. "I never want to see you again." A week later, Matt tried reaching out, but Taylor intentionally ignored his calls and eventually blocked his number. He even showed up, buzzing the intercom repeatedly until her patience wore thin. "Do you even have a conscience? How could you come here after all that's happened?" she asked, incredulous. "Taylor, please just listen," Matt pleaded. "Deanna set me up. I had nothing to do with her, I swear. I never thought about siding with your father." "Really?" Taylor replied, skepticism dripping from her words. "And those pictures on your phone? Didn't Diana send those to you? Did she take your phone and message herself?" "No, I was texting her, but she kept telling me to leave you, and I wouldn't listen," he insisted, desperate. "And that's why you called me a coward and called her a sweetheart," Taylor shot back venomously. "Just go away. I don't want you in my life anymore. Just the thought of being in the same town as you disgusts me." He never returned. Over time, Taylor picked up the pieces of her life, recommitting herself to her hobbies, work, and her friends. Sometimes, memories of what had transpired would creep back, sending chills down her spine, but she always found herself grateful for how it had all unraveled. Who knows what might have happened otherwise?